you want to improve your rating, you need to do one thing, and that is reduce your blunders. Easier said than done, but it's easier to reduce your blunders if we understand why we make blunders in the first place. So in this video, I'm going to go through the reasons with examples of why amateur players blunder. One reason people blunder is they focus too much on their own plans and don't take into account their opponent's threats at all. In this position, it's black to play. Black takes the knight on f5. And what does white want to do in this position, ideally? Well, he wants to take back with a knight, right? Putting a knight on f5 in a massively superior position, especially as it cannot be kicked because this g-pawn is here, or the g-pawn has been taken in the game. You want to play knight f5. The problem with that is that the queen's under attack, but white's so focused on their own plans, they just play knight takes f5 anyway and lose the queen. Here's another example of exactly the same thing. So what white should be doing in this position really is defending this bishop, but white's focused too much, I think, on getting a discovered attack on this knight. So white's probably thinking really quickly in this position, not spending much time. If I move this knight, I attack this knight. So I move this knight and then, oh, I blunder my bishop. So that is the idea of, not really focusing on the opponent's plans at all, as if black is not moving in this position. If white has two moves, white can play this move and then play another move, then that would be good. But obviously, we've got to try and focus on our opponent's threats. Otherwise, things like that happen. So that's the first reason why people blunder. They do not look at their opponent's threats at all. The second reason that people blunder is they just try too hard and they try, to play aggressive chess when the position doesn't call for it. So here's an example of what I'm talking about from this position. So it's white to play. Black has just challenged the knight on b3. And what to play in this position? Well, I would either castle, right, or possibly bishop or knight. Any one of these three moves is completely normal. White tries to be Bobby Fischer or something like that and takes the pawn on f7. And after the king takes, we get two pawns for the piece, but it's just not enough. And white just goes on to lose this game. Another reason people blunder, and this is a major one actually, is that people play too quickly and they don't really think. They just kind of rushing through, maybe, trying to play at blitz speed and bullet speed, which is fine in blitz and bullet chess, but in standard time controls or rapid controls like in this one, it's just not a good idea. So moves in this position, well, white's not castled, probably should have castled before this at this position. I will be playing bishop to g2, and I'll be looking at castling immediately, as soon as possible, really, because black has got these pieces. Black's castled, bishop in the game, queen can come in, bishop can come in at some point, and white is in a bit of trouble here. So bishop g2 is natural, but what white does, and they spend 2 seconds in making this decision, is take this knight, and then the bishop comes in, and now white can't castle, and white's just stuck, with the king on e1, and black soon goes on to win this game. One is overlooking a tactic or overlooking an opponent's resource. This is similar to the first example. You're not paying enough attention to the opponent's moves. Maybe not as bad as the first example, that you are looking at the opponent's threats, you just don't see the tactic. And I think this is what I call an acceptable blunder, because the pattern's not maybe solid enough or something like that. So this position is an example of that. It's white to play. Black has just brought the bishop to g6, and white takes the e-pawn, right, which looks on the surface pretty good, but after bringing one of the rooks to the open e-file, white's just going to lose a piece. So what I would do in cases like this, if this is just a general lack of pattern knowledge, I'll be looking to train these types of positions in order to improve it. The reason is that people consider one threat but not the other, and this is a major reason I found when I was researching to make Blunder Busters, why people blunder. So let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. So in this position, it's white to play. White plays knight to d5, a nice square, and black doesn't want to lose this bishop. Right, this is probably black's best minor piece, right, and this has probably come to b7 as well and be pretty strong. So natural reaction is to tuck the bishop back to preserve the piece, but in doing so, just loses this pawn. Right, so black has responded to threat on the bishop, seen that threat, So it's not like the first case where they're just not responding to the threats at all. Black has seen the threat, but hasn't countered the second threat. So, responding to one threat, but not the other. Other reasons why we blunder: time pressure is a big factor, not being familiar with the particular structure or an opening, tiredness and fatigue, not really concentrating if we're playing a long game. But those 5 reasons I've just shown, I think, are probably the main reasons why we blunder outside of time pressure. So what to do about it? I have said previously, a way to reduce blunders is to play lots of chess games, get lots of patterns, and then you get familiar with, responding to those types of situations. But in the meantime, there are things that we can do to improve. And that's, the first idea of not focusing on your opponent plans at all. I think you've got to try and get into the habit of looking at your opponent's threats before you make a chess move. And I think that will reduce that blunder type. The second one, trying too hard. That's understandable. We all want to win fantastic chess games, but I think we have to really look at the chess position on the board, and we just have to play logical chess. Third reason, I'm playing too quickly and not thinking. Again, I think that's just habits, bad habits maybe creeping in, maybe inexperience. And the more chess games we play, the more we realise when we have to slow down and when we have to speed up. I think Ben Feingold recommended playing 80%, using 80% of all your time in every time control, so that you've got a little bit of time left, the scrambles at the end, but you're thinking correctly through the time controls. Whatever that is, if it's a 10-minute game, then you're using 8 minutes every single time you play a 10-minute game and scale it up. Overlooking tactics, that's just natural. And I think that is a blunder that I think is an acceptable blunder. It's like, I just didn't see that tactic. I'm not familiar enough with that pattern. And, by playing games, identifying the patterns we're not familiar with and training those, we just become stronger at chess. And the last reason, focusing on one threat is better than not focusing on any threats at all. It's getting there. But I think every time we see a position, we look at our opponent's moves and we think, well, there's a threat there. Stop. Are there any other threats in the position? And I think that can help to reduce that type of blunder. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.